We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy.
Dummy. Conspiracy dummy.
Hey, welcome to Conspiracy Dummy, the conspiracy podcast that's been here since the beginning of time. I am your host, Double D. Joining me on the podcast once again is a young Christian warrior and a dinosaur aficionado. He opened the door and got on the floor, and now he's time to walk these dinosaurs. Mr. Dyno-Ryder, what's up, homie?
How's everybody doing? It's like you guys know, it's my second time on Danny's podcast, so let's get this started.
Yes. Man, like, I've known you for a minute, man, and it's crazy. Like, you're very, very knowledgeable when it comes to dinosaurs. Like, what sparked your interest in dinosaurs, man?
Well, you just touched on it. You've been knowing me, if I'm correct, almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
You do the math. But, yeah, I mean, ever since I was young, Danny, like, growing up in Puerto Rico, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, what sparked my interest in dinosaurs is reptiles. As you know, Puerto Rico is an island, right?
Yeah.
Surrounded by, what is it, the Atlantic Ocean, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, somewhere on there, yeah.
All right. I don't know the facts, but I'm just saying.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. And when I was young, like 3 years old, 4 years old, growing up in Puerto Rico, looking out the window, it was very common to see big reptiles. Like you have 6-foot iguanas, you have monitor lizards. I remember seeing lizards, chameleons. So that's right there. For some reason, when I was 3, I remember going outside the Bayamon. That's where we are originally from. My family's Bayamon, Puerto Rico, not too far away from San Juan, which is the capital. But yeah, I remember seeing this huge lizard, bro, going up a tree. And it's it's like a iguana. It was a green iguana going up a tree. So that right there caught my, fascinations with dinosaurs. But ever since I could remember being that young, like dinosaurs, especially ancient reptiles, caught my attention. For some reason, looking at iguanas and all this other like alligators living in Puerto Rico, I guess as a kid you imagine what dinosaurs would have been like. They just capture my imagination. As long as I can remember, I've always been interested in like ancient reptiles, ancient life, and dinosaurs just sparked that, curiosity in me. And I remember just going to elementary school, picking up, checking out all the, paleontology books. I was like a big nerd in paleontology. And that's how I learned about Jack Horner, Bob Barker, all these famous paleontologists in the early 70s and the early 80s started talking about, dinosaurs were warm-blooded and all of this. But that's how I became interested in it, which is in the early age.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Like, I think a lot of kids at a young age are fascinated with dinosaurs. It's just that scale of things, you know what I mean? It's so huge, and Jurassic Park, man, really knocked shit out of the park, huh? For reals. And the movie Caveman with Ringo Starr. That sparked my interest as a kid, dates me, right? Like when it comes to dinosaurs, like what you mentioned, like lizards and alligators, those are like the descendants of dinosaurs, correct? Am I right?
I'm
like
hoping
they evolved from that.
I'm hoping you did some research.
Well, yeah, but like the thing is, so same thing with chickens. Now we know that birds and all that are kind of evolved from.
Well, let me answer your question where you're saying lizards. See, dinosaurs, from what I understand, they're into 2 different families.
Okay.
The archosaurs are the most ancient line, and that archosaurs represents the lizards, the crocodiles, and the snakes also fall into that family.
Okay.
So you have your archosaurs, which is your ancient line.
Amphibians, right? Am I correct?
Amphibians are not dinosaurs.
No, but that's in that reptile.
It is.
Yeah,
they are,
okay.
but they're not really dinosaurs because they're.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah, no, but there's part of that lineage, I guess.
But yeah,
say.
to answer that question, lizards, iguanas, they fall into the Archosaur, the most ancient line, and they also the other part, which are the most recent ones, the ones that turn into birds, are the avian dinosaurs, which are the theropods. So it's two different lines of families.
So, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Come on, who laid the egg? Thinking that way, come on.
It's through mutation, correct? Some kind of mutation.
There was a creator, but that's a different.
So what came first, the chicken or the dinosaur?
Obviously, the dinosaur. So, like I said, who laid the egg?
So the dinosaurs, they did lay eggs.
Well, no.
No, how did they?
Oh, correcting. Yeah, I'm thinking something else. Yeah, they did lay eggs.
They had to lay eggs, huh?
But that's funny you say that. Did you know up to now, no paleontologists have ever found a fossilized nest of a Tyrannosaurus. So as it is right now at the moment, paleontologists don't know if it laid eggs. Now, this is where I'm getting at, that it's funny that, did you know that some reptiles are oviviparous? Do you know what that is?
No, tell me.
Oviviparous means that they gave birth to live young. Some snakes, some iguanas, and some reptiles do that as of today. Some snakes give birth to live young. A lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. And it's just the same way with the ancient lines of animals, that even some mammals, like the echidnas, the platypuses, the ancient lines, they lay eggs. And a lot of people don't know that.
So, what's your favorite type of dinosaur, man?
Me, everybody, of course, likes Tyrannosaurus rex, the big theropod that lived 65 million years ago with the little scrawny hands. That's the kids' favorite, which also lived along the longhorn triceratops, which was a ceratopsian, which was the main prey of Tyrannosaurus. Everybody loves these dinosaurs, but to me, the ones I find more interesting are the ones where one of my favorite books is called Digging Dinosaurs, where John R. Horner, the character in Jurassic Park movies, was based upon. Mm-hmm. He describes the hadrosaurs.
Right.
Hadrosaurs were duck-billed dinosaurs, and the paleontologist John Horner is known as the duck-bill man. And you'll understand it is because these dinosaurs were herbivorous, but what made them weird was that their bills, they looked like birds.
Kind of like a duck, kind of looking.
Yeah, they had duck bills, and they had thousands of teeth behind their jaws. So they might look boring to a lot of people, but check it. What I find interesting about these dinosaurs is that they're the most well-studied. We know more about them than any other dinosaur group. We have fossilized skeletons. We have fossilized eggs and nests, and we have fossilized skin. So we, as the paleontologist people, they have a very good idea what their appearance was like. That's why I find them very interesting, because to me, also, they were very, very successful in the last 65 million years on Earth. They were late, in evolution-wise, they were late coming to Earth. They were like in the latest Cretaceous period, they appeared, and they lasted through the latest Cretaceous, but they were very common. You can find them in every continent. Not all dinosaurs are like that. You cannot find a Tyrannosaurus, let's say, in Africa, or you can't find a Triceratops in Asia. Some members you do, like some other family members, but those particular genuses, those species, Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, you can't find them nowhere else. Now the hadrosaurs, you can find them anywhere. There's evidence, paleontologists have found that there's evidence of them even living in the Arctic poles, the cold. Back in those days, it wasn't cold. They have evidence, paleontologists, that it was warm. The coldest they ever got was like 50-something degrees. So they have found evidence of hadrosaurs living up in the North Pole, the South Pole. And yeah, to me, that's interesting. There might not be as ferocious as a T-Rex. They might not be as interesting as a Triceratops, which I love. As a kid, I loved them. But reading this book, Digging Dinosaurs, which was one of John Horner's books. He has a series. The other one is Dinosaur Lives. But this one particular explains how they grew, how they took care of their babies, how they found fossilized skin impressions. So, yeah, I find that very interesting because for some reason, they were very successful, and they tell us a lot about dinosaurs.
So, like, when it comes to the extinction of dinosaurs, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think happened?
Well, this is where it gets, to me and my beliefs, this is where it gets different. And I don't know if you have time to get into that, which I am not trying to touch my religion's backgrounds, but...
Only if you're comfortable.
I believe in young earth, the young earth creationist. I believe that earth is not 4.6 billion years like the textbooks, scientific textbooks teach us. I don't believe in that. I believe in a young earth, which earth can only be, to me, is like personally thousands of years. And we have evidence in the fossil records that support that supports that. You know, me as a Christian also.
Which we'll touch on later. We'll touch on that. Yeah, go ahead.
But yes, me personally, they were, you know, at the end of the Cretaceous, you know, like they explained it 65 million years ago, they touch upon a meteor strike in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. That's where they have found the crater. So supposedly that impact destroyed, I think, is 75% of all life on Earth. But that, to me, you know, it's like, to me, it's too coincidental. It's easy for, you know, for scientists to say, oh, a meteor hit, destroyed all life on Earth. That, to me, I don't believe in that. I believe, like, in my religious backgrounds, what the word explains it. They were destroyed by the Creator and the flood.
Oh, so a flood. Okay, because there's other theories on, like, maybe how they went extinct. Like, for one example, they ate their own eggs. Like, the adults ate eggs, like other adults. So they were not really reproducing.
Well, that remark.
Have you heard of that before?
They ate their own eggs?
Yeah, or like maybe predators are eating their eggs. So it was
when you see the natural world, Danny, all animals are predators and they're opportunists. So if, you know, that doesn't really explains it. And another theory that paleontologists suggested back in I think late 80s, it might have been that when the mammals, I don't know if you know, but mammals were very small in the latest Cretaceous period. When Tyrannosaurus, when Triceratops were roaming the Earth, the biggest mammal was as big as a house cat.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I guess in science or whatever, in the textbooks, it's our ancestors. That one little creature, right? That survived.
So that's one of the theories they explained it back in the 80s was like maybe the mammals were eating the population, their eggs. Maybe that's what they dwindled.
Or maybe it was like a famine mentality too. Like they were probably running out of food and they just needed to eat. Maybe vegetation was scarce for them at that time. Or
that too.
Also, I also heard of another theory that maybe a virus probably wiped them out.
Well, that is another theory too that paleontologists have suggested. You know, as you know, like the continents, as you know, they started out in Pangea, right? As it's explained, and then as time, millions of years pass, the Pangea is separated.
Gondwana and Laurasia or something like that.
Yeah, Gondwana and Laurasia, I think.
I remember.
Don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert. I do try my best, but I'm not an expert.
I'm trying to think back in high school or early college years. You know what I mean? When I was learning all that.
But yeah, what were you saying?
No, yeah, they're just alternative stories like that. There's also another one. This is a crazy one.
Okay, I just remember. Yeah, you were saying about viruses.
Yes.
So that's to finish it off. Yeah, the continents were separating, and as they were separating, continents, some of them collided with another ones, creating land bridges. So one of the theories that actually John Barker, which is my second favorite paleontologist, he was the one that proposed a big reason that we now know that dinosaurs were warm-blooded is because his research in the 80s, maybe in the late 70s and early 80s, he started talking about dinosaurs being warm-blooded. You know, all these paleontologists back in those days, I think in the late 80s, were really onto something. You know, John Horner, Bob Barker, John McIntosh, John Ostrom. John
Jacob Jingleheimer
in
Smith.
the late 1970s found Deinonychus.
Name is my name too.
Deinonychus was a small theropod. Have you seen them? And this is the dinosaur that the Jurassic Park movies showcase with the sickle claws.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, this dinosaur was the one that shaped the way we see them, because they found the skeleton. John Ostrom found the skeleton, and that's where all the theories came upon about dinosaurs being agile, being warm-blooded like birds, because the skeleton was found.
Like their pelvis area or something, right?
Yeah,
Something
they're like birds.
Yeah, similar, very similar.
They have similar structures. They walk on two legs like birds. And you know, one thing too, when you study them, that I've read upon is that their bones are hollow. I don't know if you know that. Have ever seen a chicken bone, but once you bite into it, you know, you see it is hollow. And dinosaurs had hollow bones. That's a good. What am I saying? That's a good evidence that they were the ancestor of birds.
Okay. And and I was gonna say there is a crazy theory too out there that UFOs or aliens came here to this planet and wiped out dinosaurs for mankind to thrive. What are your thoughts about that? I see your face. I wish people could see your face right now, but
you know me, I don't. It's a good question. Like I was taught, dude, that no question is, there's no dumb question. Yeah. But when you want to flip it, now I've mentioned this before on your podcast.
Yeah.
Dale Russell, another paleontologist, proposed that if the non-avian dinosaurs were to have kept evolving, a creature called the Dinosauroid would have evolved.
Yes.
And then now it makes more sense, I guess, what you're asking. This creature, once it evolved, it would have looked like a little green man from Mars, because it had big eyes, it was scaly, it walked like a human being. It lost this ability for its tail because it did not need its tail no more to balance. So it walked like a human being, and it gave birth to live young. So that's the theory that Dale Russell proposed, that if dinosaurs could have still evolved, they would have
turned into lizard people.
Exactly, which is, you know, and for some reason, little green man, scaly, you know, like science fiction, Star Trek. There's episodes of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
right?
yeah, there's plenty, yeah.
So, yeah, to answer your question, but it's doubtful. I don't think no aliens killed the dinosaurs off. There's no evidence of that.
Well, isn't like also like their bones? I heard that too. Like you find them at museums, that their bones are like have signs of some radiation kind of level to them or something like that. Am I correct? Like they're coated with something. Like when you go to these museums, I know a lot of them are not really kind of like real. They're like casting and stuff like that, because a lot of them are very fragile and they'll deteriorate right away. But I heard they also have to paint them with some kind of coating on them because they radiate this kind of like, I don't know too much about that. Maybe, you know,
well,
you heard about that.
I never read anything about that, because the reason, all I know is that when you go to museums, the reason they don't, the fossils, the original fossils, is because they're so heavy. They don't stack them up like that. They make casts, because when you find them, they're mineralized. That means that the earth, the stones, has actually dissolved the organic matter, like the blood cells and all of that. It has turned to stone. That's why it's so heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as any other radiation components,
no,
I have never heard of anything like that. Although I would say a fun fact.
Yes.
One of the earliest dinosaurs ever discovered was by a British paleontologist. I think it was Gideon Mantell. There it is. And he found Iguanodon. That's one of the very first dinosaurs described, which was given its name Iguanodon because its tooth. which means in Latin or in Greek, it means iguana tooth. So this dinosaur was found in their remains. He describes had pyrite. Pyrite is called like the fool's gold because it gave off this shiny gold. It looked just like gold. But the interesting thing is that when he found them, he saw that they would shine like gold. These iguanodons that they found in this quarry. So further studies, it found out that it was fool's gold. It was pyrite, this metal element type thing that made the bones glow like gold. And I think that's pretty neat to have.
That is pretty crazy. Yeah, because I heard somewhere around there, like, I don't know, man. And when I started hearing about that, like maybe the bones are radiated or something, I was like, man, shit, maybe they got blasted by something back in the day, like a UFO alien ray from a spaceship or something. I don't know.
That's interesting, though. I wanna know where you read that from. Maybe.
Yeah, I probably gotta look for the source.
Interesting, though.
But let's start getting into this, some more crazy, kooky conspiracies around dinosaurs. Okay, not far from here, there's a place called Glen Rose, Texas, and then there's a river bank or something. Like, there's a lot of fossilized footprints of dinosaurs out there. And I went out there one time, and it was pretty neat checking all that out. But I heard, and you can read up on this too, there's actually these footprints that are along the side of a bipedal primate, a dinosaur footprint that's coexisting in the same rock layer, in the same like rock bed, whatever, like next to each other, fossilized. You know, for a while they thought too that it was a hoax, but I think they lift the rock bed and those footprints continued underneath. So, like, I don't know if they were how can it be tampered with if you unearth something like that? What are your thoughts about like early man coexisting with dinosaurs? Because it kind of needs like some evidence towards your theory about a young Earth.
As a person that believes, my beliefs as a young Earth creationist point of view. And the what you're talking about is it's called Glen Rose, Texas.
Yeah.
And the river that the actual footprints were preserved is called the Paluxy River.
Paluxy River. Mm-hmm.
And and I think if I'm not correct, during the 1930s, Ronald something, I think it was Ronald T. Bird or something like that. He was a paleontologist, was the one that actually excavated with a group of workers. And they showed evidence, they does show that these tracks, which was a combination of theropod and sauropods, in layman's terms, a sauropod is your everyday brontosaur. That's the big herbivorous dinosaurs, most common in the Jurassic period. And then you have your theropod, which is like your meat eater, like let's say a Tyrannosaurus, we had 3 toes. And with these tracks, it shows them that evidence goes that the theropod was actually preying upon the sauropod. These tracks could be followed like miles. And from what the researchers study they came with the conclusion that, the theropod was preying upon the sauropod. It was stalking it. And it does show in some footprints, it shows that it actually leaped. There's evidence that the left foot is actually the footprint is missing. That means like it lifted out of the ground and caught a hold of that big sauropod in the hindquarters, like it took a bite out of it. And yes, there have also found footprints of early human beings, which to me as a creationist, this again, it's evidence that dinosaurs and human beings coexisted.
Like the Flintstones. Yabba dabba doo.
But to keep it, nonfiction, that's to me evidence that they have found it. The funny thing is though about the size of them, they show 19 foot size for these prints. They were huge prints. But then again, I don't want to get into all the Bible and all of that because some people might lose interest. But back in the Bible, it says that there were giants on Earth. Everything was bigger back in the days.
Even insects, huh?
Even insects. Plants. Everything was huge back then because we had 30% more oxygen in the atmosphere. Everything grew so quick back in those days, and people lived longer and they were taller. So, that's, to me, it's evidence. People might want to dismiss it, but yeah, I've seen those footprints with alongside dinosaurs. That, again, is just evidence that lets you know that dinosaurs, they're not that old. They're not millions of years old. They're in the lines of reasoning as thousands of years old.
Also, evidence, I guess, backing that theory up. There's a doctor, a paleontologist, right? Her name is Mary
Schweitzer.
Schweitzer, yes. And then she had an amazing discovery, too. Can you explain more on her findings?
Yes. Well, Mary Schweitzer, I actually did a little research, some research on her. Her early life, she was born in Montana. She was born in Montana. Her father died at an early age when she was 16. And you know what? She was sad, and then she turned to Christianity for solace and comfort. And she adopted the beliefs of a young earth creationist. A lot of people might know that, but I read upon that I don't know by now what about her beliefs changed, but she, for some period, was a young earth creationist. She believed that the earth was not 4.6 billion years old. She believed in the dinosaurs being they lived recently, most likely like 6,000, 7,000 years old. And she believed in this in her early studies, her early academic, studies. She believed in this.
Okay.
And yes, there's a funny story that I read too, that she was quoted saying to John Horner that you must know that John Horner was her mentor.
Yes.
She studied under John Horner's mentorship. Yeah. She got interested in a lecture, dinosaur lecture she sat in, and that's how it sparked that, that interest in dinosaurs. And the funny thing is that she's quoted as saying, "Oh, I'm Mary Schweitzer. I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong. Your evolution of theory is wrong." And the funny thing is, at that time, she was a Christian. Now, I did not know this either, but the funny thing and the contradiction about that, it's ironic that it's quoted as John Horner saying, "Oh, okay, I'm John Horner. I'm an atheist." And yes, you can sit and sit on my class and learn about dinosaurs. But that to me is very, very funny how those two minds.
She was still open-minded, vice versa. I'm sure he was as well.
No, but her beliefs at that time, she was a Christian and she was sternly believes.
And then those two had worked together, correct? Later on, Jack Horner's find.
She studied under Jack Horner.
But Jack Horner found a discovery too of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Well, yeah. That's the thing, Mary. That if I'm not if I'm saying the story correctly, the earliest that I read about is in 1990 when she was doing her doctoral studies under in Montana, working under John Horner's laboratory. That's the first one she evidence of when she cut into a Tyrannosaurus. See, a lot of people don't know this, but John Horner is known for cutting up open dinosaur bones.
Okay. The
hadrosaurs, the ones that I told you that are my favorite dinosaurs, because his research, and I would like to advise people to pick up this book, Dinosaurs, Digging Up Dinosaurs by Dr. John R. Horner, because it explains it, his research.
Okay.
He was opening up dinosaurs' bones, putting them under microscopes. He was the first paleontologist that did that. And through his research, we know that dinosaur bones are similar, vascular. They have vascular vessels, like where the bloodstream you go to. He put it under the microscope, and then he compared that to birds, ostrich birds, the bones, the way the structure inside, and they were the same. See, he also compared them to reptiles like the crocodiles, but the birds was more closely related in appearance to a bird.
And then that sample that he found also with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, he sent that off to Mary to do some studies. And what was her find?
Yeah, she found that out. Working through his research that he was doing, that's what he was doing, cutting up bones. Now, Mary came along and started picking up on his lectures and being, interested in dinosaurs. she was working under his laboratory. Now, mind you, this guy was doing that in the late 80s.
Okay.
Mary Schweitzer in the early 90s was barely working under him, under the laboratory.
And what was her find?
And she found that, like I was telling you earlier, she found out evidence that the Tyrannosaur, the inside of it was had red blood cells remnants
Still remaining
in there. She looked at and showed Jack. With Jack, you know, Jack is, if everybody knows, Jack is a shoot once kind of guy.
His last name is Horner.
This paleontologist showed me the evidence. I don't believe until you show me the evidence.
And what does that mean?
And
What is this showing that? Yeah.
When she was showing him this, he's like, and she quoted saying it took him 10 minutes. He kept looking at him quietly, and he finally said to her, prove me, Mary, that they're not red blood cells. Okay. So that right there, it was like confusion, because she's like, this can't be possible. Organic matter cannot fossilized. See, a dinosaur bone, when it's fossilized, it's made into stone. The minerals, the stone turns it into a hard element. It's like a rock.
Yeah.
That's what the word means. Fossil means hard rock in Hebrew or Latin, not Hebrew, but Latin.
Okay.
Hard rock. That means any organic matter, red blood cells, any protein is turned to rock. And she was like, okay, this can't be possible. Red blood cells, she found traces of proteins. Proteins are the like the tissue, which
still attached.
is still attached. And she has a lot of these findings in the scientific journals. She has published since 1990 up till 2000, I think 7. She has done this, and she repeated this process. And the findings are that, yeah, she has found organic matter. She has found proteins, red blood cells, soft tissue. But you know what the funny thing is? Paleontologists don't want to credit her with her findings.
Why
They
is that?
say, well, think about it.
Because of
Being
her beliefs, and all
her
that.
beliefs background. She's being a Christian.
Yeah.
She's being a woman, you know. And yeah, she's like, to this day, she has not proven that they're not. This again falls into my line of believing that everybody's being told a story.
Because like, basically
Everything
anything that's like millions and millions of years old, it's not going to have that kind of stuff remaining.
Exactly. Like they're talking about proteins, are the red blood cells, red soft tissues. And when she put them in, there's documentaries. When she put that on the microscope, you can see the tissue move around like if it was like elastic, like plastic. So you mean to tell me if that Tyrannosaurus Rex was 65 million years old and everything had turned into mineral, the bone, the inside, and everything, there's no way that red blood cells, traces of red blood cells, traces of proteins, traces of the tissue, all of this evidence is telling us that they have to rethink, and this is what she has said, we have to rethink the way that fossils are fossilized. Now they probably even have to change the term fossil anymore, because fossil means rock, turned into rock. But what they're finding right now is that it's not just her too. Other paleontologists have found evidence of these remnants of proteins. That's why they call them proteins, that organic matter that has survived somehow. This again tells us that dinosaurs are not millions of years old. They can only be thousands of years old. And I know a lot of people, it's hard for you to comprehend, because you know why? We've been told this crap since we were born.
Yeah, I kind of go by the textbook model and shit, from what I'm taught and everything. But yeah, I keep an open mind. You know me, Alberto. Also,
may I add also?
Yeah.
I forgot to add that she did research on another second dinosaur, another hadrosaur, and again to prove her point. Let me do this again with a different dinosaur. So this species was in Montosaurus. That was the huge hadrosaur from the late Cretaceous. Again, red blood cells, protein, tissue. She has done this countless of times, and she has sent her findings through other laboratories, and they say, you know
Similar.
what, similar, and it's not just a coincidence. To me, it's like, show me the facts, and the facts are there. Now, if you wanna comprehend like without wisdom, understanding, but to me, it's just plain blank.
Also, there's other, like, talking about like the timeline and maybe things being coexisting, like dinosaurs and humans. There's rocks in Peru. I believe the Inca rocks are these stone carvings depicting humans riding on dinosaurs, killing dinosaurs. What are your thoughts about that?
I've seen those. I think they're what do you call them? Petroglyphs. Petroglyphs is any old stone that you see writings, or ancient civilizations, you find writings and stuff like that. But I've seen them, and I think they're proven to be hoaxes. But I would say they're hoaxes. But the interesting thing is that, at first I thought they were real, because you can see.
It looks interesting. It looks pretty cool.
You see little people. There's one.
They're like riding there.
Yeah, there's one. It's interesting. I saw one was riding a triceratops, and it shows the skin.
The skin, how they kind of look, the anatomy.
And up until now, nobody has ever found fossilized skin of a triceratops or the family of the ceratopsians, but they have now, and it does show a similar pattern. That's the funny part about that, Danny. They show that they have big scales surrounded by smaller scales. So they had a pattern to their appearance. And that particular petroglyph has the same pattern as the fossilized skin. Again, anybody with reason that these ancient civilizations saw these animals alive, and they were just portraying their appearance on the petroglyphs. That's what, to me, would be in the lines of evidence. One could say that that's evidence. To me, being a young Earth creationist, that could be a point of interest.
Also, there's a temple in Cambodia, I believe, like a Buddhist temple, Hindu temple, or something like that, that depicts a dinosaur as well. Maybe
I could add to that.
Stereotype. What do you call that?
Let me break it down for you. It was it was the temple. I think you're right. What would you say it was? Cambodia?
Yeah, it's in Cambodia.
It's an ancient temple, I think, going back at least, I think it's the 7th century. I don't know.
And it has a depiction of the dinosaur with the scales, the spikes on its back.
Well, yeah, let me get into that.
Yeah, what is it called?
This dinosaur that these ancient tribe, because I think it was a tribe of people living in these temples, right? It portrays the great Jurassic dinosaur, which every kid loves and every person that has ever seen one can recognize. That's the big herbivorous Stegosaurus. That's the one with plates on his back. Now, this creature supposedly lived in the early Jurassic. It was a contemporary of the Brontosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and it lived in North America, Asia, and that's the dinosaur that they're portraying. And the reasoning goes is because of its plates. When you see this dinosaur, it's very distinct. It has its plates, which these plates were made out of osteoderms, which is like a type of horn. So they were made out of horn, and then the plates were there to protect the animal. And when you look at the depiction, it does look just like a Stegosaurus. And that again falls into that evidence of these people probably obviously saw one alive or something that looked similar to it.
That's interesting that you said that. You think there's something out there still living that's like a dinosaur, other than like a crocodile or something like that, like a Lochness? You think Lochness is real? Is that a dinosaur?
Lochness for a long time was considered to be a plesiosaur. That was Lochness. I think it's over there in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere.
Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's like a river channel. And a lot of people were saying that they saw sightings of this animal supposedly being a plesiosaur. That's one of these marine reptiles with the long neck, small head, that supposedly went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period, with the dinosaurs that were living on land, but they were aquatic, marine reptiles. So the sightings, they describe a creature that had a barrel-shaped body. It had flippers, which plesiosaur skeletons show, a long neck and a small skull. And that's why when all these sightings, all these people are showing a picture of a plesiosaur, this marine reptile, they say, yeah, that's the creature that I've seen. But so far, we only have that picture, which was not too long ago considered. It was found out to be a hoax. That picture that everybody recognizes. You've seen it, right?
Yeah, the famous one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nessie.
Nessie. But yeah, as far as dinosaurs, being alive to current days,
I think if something will still be alive, it would be in some fucking lake or maybe in the ocean or something like that. In the abyss.
As far as how we're increasing in population on Earth, it's doubtful that you'll ever find something like that. Hey, but this is a fun fact. Did you know that not in the 1938, this lady found a coelacanth? A coelacanth is a type of fish, ancient fish that's supposed to have been gone. Scientists thought that it became extinct along with the dinosaurs, the end of the Cretaceous. Did you know they found one alive and they have videos? You look up YouTube, coelacanth live. That was huge. It was found in 1938 by this lady going through the fisher market, a fisherman, and she spotted it. And it was found in southern Africa in 1938. And then from there, a lot of paleontologists were like, well, this can't be possible. This ancient fish is supposed to have gone extinct. There's no more like, what is it?
Like their lineage.
No more. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. My bad. That lineage supposedly have died, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they found it. Look up YouTube. If y'all don't believe it, look up live coelacanth. And that animal right there looks like it's been living on Earth for thousands of years. That thing is so prehistoric looking. But yeah, they found it alive. Again, with the reasoning that, yeah, most things you cannot go by the fossil record, because not even the fossil record is accurate, because, as it was proven, they found one alive. That means they have to correct that. Go back, 65 million years ago, they did not become extinct. They're living up to the present.
And what are your thoughts on dragons? Because they're told throughout everywhere around the world.
Well,
Asia, Europe,
well,
South
dragons
America.
Was mentioned in the Bible. Did you know that?
Like a 7-headed dragon or some shit?
No, the word dragon is mentioned in the Bible as
behemoth.
An ancient. It was mentioned as being a reptile, a kind of like a snake with a walking snake, a snake with legs. It was part. I think dragon is the old word for a reptile back in those days. That's what they used to call them, dragons. And in the Bible, this is where it gets interesting about that in the book of Job, it explains it. I'm not going to get too much into the Bible, but there's in the book of Job, there's the scriptures that describes the Leviathan and the behemoth. Yeah. The behemoth is described as this huge, God's greatest creation. And he was trying to make a point to Job. So the way he describes it as a huge animal with a long neck, he ate grass. In the thing that gets me, when God is explaining it and describing it to Job, he says this mighty creature had the tail as big as a cedar tree. Back in those days, when Job was around, cedar trees were used to build boats, huge trees. We're talking about 100 feet tall. And in the Bible, it's mentioned, like God making a point to Job.
Yeah.
This behemoth has a tail as big as a cedar tree. Now, nowadays they try to say it was a hippopotamus or a elephant.
Yeah.
Elephants, hippopotamus have the smallest tails of any mammal. It couldn't have been one of them. A lot of people might say it was a hippopotamus, but it wasn't. If this animal he's describing has the tail longer than a cedar tree, that's one of the sauropods. That's the brontosaur, the one with the long neck, the long tail. Mm-hmm. That again lets you know that dinosaurs were among human beings. They coexisted.
So, there's also this theory that dinosaurs never existed. That it was just like put there, not to test people's faith, though some people say that, but also to maybe give funding and grants to paleontology because it wasn't doing too well at a time when people were just finding rocks and stuff like that.
I could explain that easily. And it doesn't take, if you have common sense, come on. The fossils are there. Mm-hmm. We find them. We have evidence the way they appeared because you see their skin, you see their fossilized eggs, and you see the embryos inside. One can comprehend, if you have wisdom, dinosaurs were real and they were created by the higher being. That lets you know that they were real, and that is well, it's not a hoax.
It's not, but it's not too far fetched though. If something can be like faked and stuff, because we know about the Bone Wars. I'm sure you're familiar with the Bone Wars with Cope and what's the other guy's name? Marsh.
The Bone Wars was between the late 1960s and lasted into the 1990s, the late 1990s, because
1990s or
I mean, my bad, 18.
I'm like shit. These, what the name Drinker Cope or whatever. These fucking names are weird as fuck.
It was. You might have to edit this, but it was between Edward Drinker Cope from Philadelphia, and then the other guy was O.C. Marsh from New Haven.
Like, who has names like that nowadays? Like, for reals.
Shit, you were top shit back then, bro. I'm telling you. But these two guys, it's funny that you mentioned, these two guys were friends. They started as friends.
Yeah, they started off as friends.
And then as what really pissed this Edward Drinker Cope was the fact that O.C. Marsh pointed out to him that he had actually described the Elasmosaurus from Kansas, mm-hmm. And he put Edward Drinker Cope, classified it as putting the skull in the wrong end.
Oh, okay.
So O.C. Marsh corrected him publicly.
Made him look stupid.
Stupid, and then he never forgot that.
Yeah.
And he was right. O.C. Marsh let him know that he never forgot about it. Drinker was so mad that he never forgot about it.
Like, don't start shit, they won't be shit.
But, yeah. And you know why that happened is because they were finding so much skeletons and they were in competition with each other that they made mistakes. And then the thing is that Edward Drinker Cope didn't catch it. O.C. Marsh did. And when you see in the Elasmosaur the way Edward Drinker Cope restored it, yeah, he put the wrong end. He put the head on the wrong end. The Elasmosaur is supposed to have a long neck, not a short neck. So he put the head on the short part.
Yeah, they sabotaged each other's work, vandalized each other. They were fucked up to each other, man. Really,
but you know what? If it wasn't for them in the Bone Wars, these two guys, they greatly increased the knowledge of dinosaurs. These two guys, did you know, were the actual ones that O.C. Marsh discovered Triceratops. He also described Stegosaurus. He named the Stegosaurus because he thought at that time that it was like a huge armadillo because of his spikes and his plates. Stegosaurus means roofed reptile. But yeah, if it wasn't for these guys, Danny, you would not know about Brontosaurus, Stegosaurus, Triceratops. You know, this guy made huge contributions to the paleontological.
So the Bone Wars, man. Yeah, I guess it had to go down, right? That shit had to go down for it to pop off the way it did, I guess, huh? Basically.
Well, yeah, with every competition, you know, with everything, you start off as friends. But did you know also that his skull and his brain is still preserved over there in Philadelphia, Edward Drinker Cope? And you know why? Because he was so pissed still that he proposed to O.C. Marsh. Let me make you a bet. You think you're smarter than me? Oh. Okay, when I die and you die, let's have our brains preserved and measured. They did that.
Who won? Who's the?
But the funny thing is, Marsh never took up on it. So his Edward Drinker Cope's brain is still somewhere in Philadelphia in the jar. Edward Drinker Cope died, if I'm not mistaken, in 1897. O.C. Marsh followed 2 years later. So in that point, yeah, I think, it was unfortunate that they fell out as being friends. But yeah, they started out as being friends. And, he never took up on that bet. But, I think, in my opinion, Edward Drinker Cole made the biggest contribution because to me, like me personally, he loved paleontology. From the beginning, since he was 8, he loved it. See, O.C. Marsh, I think, also loved it, but I think how the story I read upon him, and I have one of his books that he said that there's actual people, that accounts of people saying that when he was alive, he used to have nightmares. He used to work hard, and he used to have nightmares, and people would say that he was crazy because they would see him after a long day in the field excavating fossils. They would see him asleep. And a lot of his workmen would say that he would tremble. He would shake at night, and he would wake up and be like, "Are you okay?" The people, his workers would be, "What's wrong with you?" "Oh, no, I just had this nightmare of this ancient monster, this monster that I'm describing, that he was following me, and he had that often." That's very interesting to me. And that to me just lets you know of the conviction of the passion of what he was doing, because when his first published paper was at the age of 18. Now, if you tell me you don't love something, you go to college and all this, and you publish your own national, paper, like your own science paper, at the age of 18, that's passion.
Yeah, that is, man. And I could see why they were passionate on their work, and I guess it had to go down like that. It led to the Bone Wars, man, and fucking Bone Wars. That's a funny word. That sounds like a porno shit. The Bone Wars.
I'm trying to keep this clean, sir. I'm trying to keep this
fucking
classy,
keep it clean. But I gotta ask you though. This is the last question, man. That's probably the most important question,
classy,
bro. Okay,
sir. This is classy.
Okay. How did dinosaurs bang? Like, how did they have sex?
Of course, you would throw that in, Danny.
Yeah, like, dude, like, think about it. A T-Rex can't hit the shit doggy style, right? And a Stegosaurus has no other choice but to, because that shit's on their back. You know what I mean? So, like, they're gonna be hitting its front. Missionary.
That's the most you have said all through my podcast. But yeah, what's your question about the dinosaurs' mating habits?
Yeah. What are their mating habits, man?
Well, which one in particular are you interested?
Well, let's start with the T-Rex. How did that shit go down?
Okay, what do you know about a T-Rex? You tell me what. For a change, you tell me, what do you think?
Like, right away that fucking tail's gonna get in the way.
Okay. Do you know how big they are?
I know they're fucking big, but like still.
Okay, so
you're telling me they're fucking hung? Like all dinosaurs are hung? Instead of saying you're hung like a horse, they should say you're hung like a dinosaur.
Well, think about have you ever seen a turtle mating? Like a Galapagos turtle?
I'm pretty sure they're slow as fuck.
No, but have you seen them, like how the way they
I don't,
do
but I can imagine.
You notice that the male is 5 times bigger than the female, right?
Yeah.
Just look that up, then you'll learn something. But yeah, I believe that the T-Rex, and a lot of people, they say the female was bigger than the male. That's what Sue the T-Rex over there in Chicago, which is a fun fact, was it is the most expensive fossil. They paid $6.7 million for that fossil over there in Chicago. Look it up. But anyways, yeah. The reason that the females were bigger, which I think is BS, the male had to be bigger. So if you see a Galapagos turtle mating, I reason that the female was smaller. You see that the T-Rexes have these little bitty forearms that they're as long as our arms. They compare them to our arms. But I believe that the female bent down with his little arms and grabbed the ground. He bent down with his head down, like you're saying. Like, you know how the saying goes, face down, A up. That's the way they like to.
Yeah. You can say it, man. You can say it.
I'm trying to keep it clean, bro.
All right. I'll say it for you. Face down, ass up. That's the way we like to.
You fill it in. But yeah, so yeah, and I believe that the female used those as claspers. That means they grabbed the ground and they hung to the ground, while the bigger T-Rex used his little arms to attach himself to the hips, in a way doggy style. Think about it. There's a picture actually. If you look up, Google it, T-Rex mating habits, and it shows it doggy style, and it makes sense because I don't think a T-Rex being that huge would get on top of another female like that, because if it fell over, Danny, how is it gonna get up with those little arms?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You definitely know if it's hitting it doggy style, it's not slapping its ass.
It's grabbing to that ass.
It's grabbing to that ass
with the little arms.
With those little arms. Okay.
Yeah, look it up in the. What were they for? If they were to grab onto it.
I guess, man, that's crazy. I have to. Yeah.
Think of it like this.
So that's how
I'm visualizing.
So that's how Barney got down.
There's actual evidence. Or another possibility is that, like crocodiles. Have you ever seen crocodiles mating? You know that the male gets on top and somehow has to pivot his cloaca. That means that dinosaurs, see, what you don't understand is dinosaurs only have one opening, and that's another reason that they're related to birds. Just like birds, they poop and they secrete their urine in one mixture.
So they only have one hole.
One hole. So when you think about it, those cloacas have to touch each other. So there's only one reasonable explanation, either doggy style or like crocodiles. That means the who knows? Maybe maybe they did it in the water to support their weight. They got in the water, and the male supported by the water.
Is that why the ocean's salty?
I don't know about that. Three-year-old questions over here.
We'll end it right there, man. Hey, I'd like to thank you for coming on again, man. I learned a lot today, and
anytime. And I would like to take the time to anybody that's interested in learning about dinosaurs to pick up this book, Digging Dinosaurs, by Dr. John Horner, and the other one is Dinosaur Lives, also by him. Through these books, you can learn a lot. You can learn about the myosaurs, the nesting colonies, how the behavior, how big they were. They protected their offspring. Anybody that's interested will learn a lot through his books. I know I have, and that sparked my imagination and my passion for paleontology. I could tell you that.
You have your beliefs, I have my beliefs, and everybody out there has their beliefs. And who really knows, man? You know what I mean? But in the words of the great Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way.
Yeah. And to finish this off, also, at the end of times, listen to this. The Lord will find and will use his apostles and his prophets to remind people in humanity of his creation and power. Dinosaurs, to me, are a reminder of the Lord's great power of creation. They were not hoaxes. They were not made up. We have the fossils. We have their eggs. We have fossilized embryos, their skin. That's a reminder for everyone to believe the great book. God is the creator. And yes, dinosaurs coexisted with humans. We were there from the beginning, and we will be here on earth to the end.
That's right. Praise sweet 8-pound 6-ounce baby Jesus.
Love me. Conspiracy.
Yabba dabba doo.